Have you ever stood at the edge of a quiet forest, hearing only the soft rustle of leaves and the gentle whispers of the wind? In that moment, did you feel the world slow down? Or have you ever held a warm cup of tea, savoring its delicate aroma, and wondered why such small, simple moments feel so profound? In the midst of a world that demands constant motion, where deadlines, notifications, and endless desires tug at us from every direction, these moments of quiet clarity can feel like a distant memory, or perhaps a dream we've yet to live. But here's the truth. These moments are not rare treasures. They're ever-present, waiting for us to notice them. At Lotus Light Teachings, we believe in the power of such moments to transform not only our days but the very fabric of our lives. Today, I invite you on a journey not to a faraway land, but inward, to the spaces within you that long for stillness, simplicity, and connection. Together, let's explore what it means to embrace the slow life, a philosophy deeply rooted in mindfulness and inspired by the timeless teachings of the Buddha. What would your life look like if you slowed down? Could the answers you seek, happiness, peace, and fulfillment, be found not by doing more, but by doing less? In the rush of modern life, have you ever stopped to ask yourself, where are we all going so quickly? It's as if time itself has become a commodity, traded for achievements, possessions, and fleeting pleasures. Yet, beneath the surface, something feels missing. We long for peace, for fulfillment that doesn't vanish like the latest trend. That longing, my friend, is the whisper of a slower life calling us back home. Years ago, I stood in that same space of discontent. Like many, I believed that success lay in having more, a bigger house, the newest gadgets, and an endless pursuit of better. But then, a moment changed everything. I remember sitting in my bustling kitchen, surrounded by appliances I hadn't touched in years, feeling an inexplicable weight pressing down on me. It wasn't just the clutter of objects, it was the clutter of my mind, my spirit. Something had to change. The decision to embrace simplicity wasn't immediate or easy. It began with a single act of letting go, a hesitant step toward the unknown. I picked up an old blender, one I hadn't used since the day I bought it, and placed it in a donation box. That simple act felt monumental, as if I were peeling away a layer of my identity. Who was I without these things? Yet, as the days turned into weeks, the more I released, the lighter I felt, not just in my home, but in my soul. This shift mirrored a teaching from the Buddha, that attachment is the root of suffering. We cling to objects, people, and even ideas, believing they define us. But in truth, freedom comes not from holding on but from letting go. And so, piece by piece, I began to uncover a life that was richer in meaning and lighter in burdens. The world we live in thrives on a simple equation: more equals better. From the moment we're old enough to understand advertisements, we're sold a story. Success is a luxury car, a walk-in closet full of designer clothes, or a perfectly curated Instagram feed. It's intoxicating, this idea that happiness can be bought. But have you ever noticed how fleeting that joy is? I'll never forget the time I saved up for months to buy the latest phone. The excitement was electric as I unboxed it, admiring its sleek design and powerful features. But within weeks, that thrill dulled. The phone became just another object, this promise of happiness unfulfilled. This cycle repeated itself with countless other purchases, each leaving me emptier than before. The Buddha's teachings remind us of the impermanence of all things. The joy of a new possession fades because it was never meant to last. Real contentment doesn't come from accumulating. It comes from understanding that our worth isn't tied to what we own. That realization is both liberating and daunting. To step off the consumer treadmill means confronting the deeper question: what truly makes us happy? One of the most transformative experiences of my life came when I decided to downsize. I sold my sprawling home and moved into a narrowboat, a modest, compact space no wider than 7 feet. The decision wasn't born of necessity but of a deep yearning for freedom. At first, it was daunting. How could I possibly fit decades of belongings into such a small space? The process of downsizing was an emotional one. Each item I picked up told a story. The sweater I hadn't worn in years but kept just in case. The decorative vases collecting dust on a shelf. The boxes of keepsakes I hadn't opened in decades. Letting go felt like saying goodbye to parts of myself. But as the piles of donations grew, so did my sense of liberation. It was as if I were shedding not just physical possessions but emotional weight. Living in a small space taught me something profound. We need far less than we think. The few items I kept functional, meaningful, and beautiful brought me more joy than the mountains of stuff I once owned. And with less clutter around me, my mind felt clearer, my days more intentional. I discovered a truth that had been hidden in plain sight. Simplicity isn't about deprivation. It's about making space for what truly matters. One morning, as I sat on the deck of my narrowboat, sipping tea and watching the sunrise over a quiet canal, I was struck by the beauty of the moment. There was no phone buzzing, no urgent task demanding my attention, just the gentle ripple of water and the soft hues of dawn. It was a moment of pure presence, and it felt like a revelation. In our busy lives, we rarely allow ourselves the gift of stillness. We're always moving, striving, and multitasking, convinced that productivity is the measure of our worth. But the teachings of mindfulness tell us otherwise. To truly live, we must learn to be present, not in the past, not in the future, but in the here and now. I began incorporating small practices into my day to cultivate this presence. A simple walk in the park became an exercise in noticing the rustle of leaves, the chirping of birds, the feel of the earth beneath my feet. Even mundane tasks like washing dishes became opportunities for mindfulness. With each act, I felt more connected to the world around me and to myself. Nature has always been one of my greatest teachers. Its rhythms and cycles remind us of life's impermanence and beauty. One autumn, as I walked through a forest carpeted in golden leaves, I was struck by the trees' quiet acceptance of change. They didn't cling to their leaves, resisting the inevitable. Instead, they let go with grace, trusting that new growth would come in time. This lesson resonated deeply with me. How often do we resist change, clinging to what no longer serves us out of fear or habit? Yet, as the trees show us, letting go creates space for renewal. When we embrace this truth, life becomes less about holding on and more about flowing with its natural rhythm. Inspired by this, I started a small garden. Tending to the soil, planting seeds, and watching them grow became a meditation in itself. Each plant reminded me of the patience and care required for growth, not just in the garden, but in our lives. As the years passed, I found that the things bringing me joy were not grand or extravagant, but deeply simple. The quiet pleasure of sipping tea on a crisp morning, the laughter shared with a friend, or the satisfaction of creating something with my hands. These moments, once overlooked, became treasures. There's a profound richness in simplicity. It invites us to see the world with fresh eyes, to find beauty in the ordinary, and to appreciate what we already have. It's not about rejecting modern life, but choosing to engage with it more intentionally. When we let go of the unnecessary, we create space for the meaningful, and that, I've learned, is where true fulfillment lies. As I sit here, reflecting on this journey, I'm reminded of the countless lessons simplicity has taught me. It's not always easy to step away from the rush of life, to choose less when the world tells us we need more. But every small step toward intentional living brings us closer to peace. So, I leave you with this question. What could you let go of today to create space for what truly matters? Perhaps it's a physical object, a habitual thought, or even the fear of stepping outside society's expectations. Whatever it is, know that in releasing it, you're making room for something far greater, something that aligns with your heart. Let us walk this path together, hand in hand, moment by moment, and as we do, may we find the courage to slow down, the clarity to let go, and the wisdom to cherish the beauty of this simple, fleeting life. Years ago, I found myself at a crossroads, standing in the middle of a life filled with possessions that no longer brought me joy. It was a life that many might call successful, marked by a spacious home, filled to the brim closets, and an endless collection of gadgets. Yet, beneath the surface, I felt suffocated. It wasn't the size of my house or the sheer volume of my belongings that weighed on me. It was the realization that I was tethered to things I didn't need, to an idea of success that no longer resonated with my heart. One evening, as I sat in my living room surrounded by shelves of books I'd never read and drawers packed with things I'd forgotten I owned, a question struck me. Why am I holding on to all this? It wasn't just the objects that cluttered my space. It was the memories, the expectations, and the subtle fear of letting go. Could I still be myself without these things? That question lingered, challenging me to reevaluate not just what I owned, but who I was. The decision to downsize came gradually, like the shifting tide. First, I started small, going through a single drawer and discarding items I hadn't touched in years. A broken watch I meant to fix but never did. Stacks of expired coupons. A pile of mismatched socks. They were all reminders of my habit of holding on to just in case. Letting go of those first few things felt insignificant, almost meaningless. But as I moved from drawer to closet, from closet to room, something shifted within me. Each item I released lightened not only my home but my heart. When I decided to move into a much smaller space, the change felt monumental. My new home, a modest, minimalist apartment, demanded that I confront my attachment head-on. Suddenly, every item I owned needed a reason to stay. Couldn't be about sentimentality or guilt. It had to serve a purpose, either functional or deeply meaningful. This wasn't just decluttering. It was a reckoning with my past choices, a process of unburdening myself from the weight of accumulation. There were moments of hesitation. Of course, I remember holding onto an old set of china dishes, passed down from my grandmother. I hadn't used them in over a decade, yet they represented family gatherings and the warmth of my childhood. But as I cradled those dishes in my hands, I realized that their value wasn't in keeping them stored away, but in cherishing the memories they evoked. Letting them go didn't erase those memories. It allowed me to make room for new ones. The physical act of downsizing mirrored a deeper spiritual journey. As the Buddha taught, clinging is the root of suffering. I began to see that my possessions weren't just cluttering my home. They were anchoring me to a life I no longer wanted to live. Each item I released became an act of mindfulness, a practice in detachment that reminded me my worth was not tied to what I owned. The more I let go, the more I discovered a profound sense of freedom, not just in my physical space, but in my mind and spirit. Living with less didn't mean deprivation. On the contrary, created space for what truly mattered. My smaller home became a sanctuary, a place where every object had intention and every corner felt peaceful. I no longer spent my weekends cleaning or organizing mountains of stuff. Instead, I found time to read, to meditate, and to connect with loved ones. The simplicity of my surroundings mirrored the simplicity I craved in my life. A life where experiences took precedence over possessions, where relationships mattered more than achievements. One day, a friend visited my new home for the first time. She marveled at how serene and uncluttered it felt. "Don't you miss your old things?" she asked. I thought for a moment before answering. "No," I said with a smile. "I don't miss the things. I feel like I've finally found myself." It wasn't just about having less, it was about being more present, more intentional, and more aligned with my values. That journey taught me a powerful truth. Simplicity isn't just about what we own. It's about how we live. When we strip away the excess, we uncover what's truly important. For me, it was the quiet joy of a peaceful home, the deep connection with those I love, and the space to pursue a life of meaning. Letting go wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something far more beautiful. And so, I invite you to consider this. What might you release to create space for what truly matters in your life? Perhaps it's an object you've held onto out of habit, a commitment that no longer serves you, or even a belief that keeps you tethered to the past. Whatever it is, know that in letting go, you make room for something far greater, a life of clarity, intention, and peace. Life often feels like a race, doesn't it? We rush from one task to another, juggling deadlines, responsibilities, and the unrelenting pull of a to-do list that never seems to end. But have you ever stopped to wonder, what are we racing toward? In the quiet moments when the noise fades, it's easy to see how much we miss while rushing. The philosophy of slow living offers an antidote to this hurried existence. It's an invitation to not just live, but to truly experience life, to savor its depth, beauty, and meaning. At its core, slow living is about being present. It's not a rejection of modern life or a call to abandon ambition. Instead, it's a gentle reminder to pause and consider what truly matters. This idea resonates deeply with Buddhist teachings, which emphasize the importance of mindful awareness, being fully present in each moment without judgment or distraction. It's a simple concept, yet its power is profound. One morning, as I sipped tea on my porch, the sunlight filtered through the trees, casting soft patterns on the ground. For once, I wasn't scrolling through my phone or planning my day. I simply sat there holding the warm cup in my hands, feeling the steam rise against my face, and tasting each sip as if it were the first. In that quiet moment, I understood something Thich Nhat Hanh often taught. Even the smallest act, when done with mindfulness, can become a meditation. It wasn't just tea, it was an experience, a connection to the present that felt both grounding and liberating. This practice of mindful awareness is a cornerstone of slow living. When we rush through life, we miss these moments of quiet joy and clarity. By slowing down, we create space to notice the rustle of leaves in the wind, the warmth of the sun on our skin, or the laughter of a loved one. These moments, though fleeting, are where life's true richness lies. They remind us that happiness isn't something we chase. It's something we cultivate by being fully here. Another principle of slow living is intentionality. It's about making conscious choices rather than moving through life on autopilot. I used to fill my schedule with commitments, social events, work projects, errands, thinking that being busy meant being productive. But over time, I realized that saying yes to everything left me drained, unable to give my full energy to the things that truly mattered. One day, after a particularly overwhelming week, I decided to change. I started to ask myself a simple question before saying yes to anything. Does this align with what I value? First, it felt strange to turn things down, especially when they seemed important. But as I became more intentional, my days began to feel lighter, more purposeful. I discovered the freedom that comes from focusing on quality rather than quantity, whether in relationships, experiences, or even the things I owned. I remember cleaning out my wardrobe during this time, holding each piece of clothing and asking myself if it brought me joy or served a purpose. It was surprising how much I'd held onto out of habit or guilt. Letting go wasn't just about decluttering my space. It was about creating room for what truly resonated with me. This shift extended beyond my belongings. It changed how I approached everything. Meals became an opportunity to nourish both body and soul, not just something to rush through. Conversations became deeper and more meaningful when I gave them my full attention. Gratitude is another thread woven into the fabric of slow living. In a world that often focuses on what's missing, gratitude shifts our perspective to what we already have. It's not about ignoring challenges or pretending everything is perfect. It's about recognizing the blessings that exist alongside life's struggles. I started a simple gratitude practice during a particularly challenging season. Each evening, I'd write down 3 things I was thankful for. Small things like the way the light hit the mountains at sunset or the kind words of a stranger. Over time, this practice transformed how I saw the world. Even on the hardest days, there was always something to appreciate, something to hold on to. Gratitude taught me that joy isn't found in grand gestures or monumental achievements. It's in the little things, the quiet moments we often overlook. Slow living also invites us to embrace simplicity, not just in our surroundings, but in how we approach life. Simplicity doesn't mean deprivation. It means clarity. It's about stripping away the unnecessary to uncover what truly matters. I learned this lesson while spending time in nature. There's a purity in the natural world, a rhythm that feels both grounding and expansive. Walking through a forest or sitting by the ocean, I'm reminded that life's most profound moments often require nothing more than our presence. These principles, mindful awareness, intentional choices, gratitude, and simplicity, aren't just abstract ideas. They're practices we can weave into our daily lives. They remind us that life isn't about how much we do or have. It's about how deeply we live. As I reflect on my journey with slow living, I'm struck by how much it has enriched my life. It's not always easy to slow down in a world that values speed and productivity, but the rewards are immeasurable. There's a sense of peace that comes from living in alignment with what matters most, a peace that can't be bought or achieved through external means. And so, I encourage you to pause and consider, what would your life look like if you slowed down? What small step could you take today to embrace the present, to make an intentional choice, or to find gratitude in the ordinary? Perhaps it's as simple as sipping your morning coffee without distraction, taking a few deep breaths before starting your day, or saying no to something that doesn't align with your values. Life isn't a race, it's a journey, and the beauty of slow living is that it allows us to savor each step, to find meaning not in the destination but in the path itself. When we slow down, we open our hearts to the world around us and to the truth within us. And in that space, we discover the quiet, enduring joy that comes from simply being. Life often presents us with moments of transformation, times when we're called to rethink how we live and what truly matters. These shifts, whether subtle or profound, remind us that change is not only possible but often necessary to uncover a deeper sense of fulfillment. Let me share with you two stories that illustrate how simplicity and intentional living can lead to powerful transformations. These journeys, though vastly different, share a common thread: the realization that less can truly mean more. Steve Jobs is a name that evokes innovation, brilliance, and an almost mythical sense of creativity. Yet, behind the genius who revolutionized technology was a man deeply committed to simplicity. Jobs famously adopted a minimalist approach in many aspects of his life. His wardrobe, for instance, consisted of a few identical black turtlenecks, jeans, and sneakers, a uniform he chose deliberately to reduce decision fatigue. In a world filled with infinite choices, Jobs recognized that simplicity could free his mind to focus on what mattered most: his work. When asked about this choice, he explained that by eliminating unnecessary decisions, he had more mental energy for creativity. That clarity, he believed, was essential to his success. Jobs' commitment to simplicity extended beyond his wardrobe. His design philosophy at Apple emphasized clean, intuitive functionality, products that were as elegant as they were groundbreaking. His story reminds us that simplicity is not about deprivation but about creating space for what truly matters. This approach resonated with me deeply. I've often found myself overwhelmed by choices, whether it's deciding what to wear, what to cook, or even how to spend my time. Inspired by Jobs, I began simplifying small areas of my life. I pared down my wardrobe to a handful of versatile, comfortable pieces, freeing myself from the morning ritual of sifting through a cluttered closet. The impact was immediate. I felt lighter, more focused, and oddly liberated. It wasn't just about saving time. It was about reclaiming my energy for the things that truly deserved it. On the other end of the spectrum is the story of a retired couple who traded the busyness of their professional lives for the quiet joys of a vegetable garden. After years of chasing promotions, attending endless meetings, and living by the clock, they made the deliberate choice to slow down. They moved to a small home with a patch of land and began growing their own food. First, they approached gardening as a practical pursuit, a way to reduce their grocery bills and ensure fresh, organic produce. But as they dug their hands into the soil, planted seeds, and watched them grow, the act of gardening became something much more profound. It was a meditation, a reminder of life cycles, and an opportunity to connect with the natural world. They spoke about the joy of harvesting the first ripe tomato, the satisfaction of turning compost into rich soil, and the quiet contentment of tending to their plants each morning. Their days, once dominated by schedules and deadlines, were now measured by the rhythm of the seasons. Each moment spent in the garden was an act of mindfulness, a way to be fully present in the here and now. They no longer felt the need to chase external validation. Instead, they found fulfillment in the simple act of nurturing life. Hearing their story made me think about the power of small, mindful acts. It's easy to dismiss these activities as mundane or insignificant, but they hold a kind of magic. When we slow down and engage with the world around us, whether through gardening, cooking, or even taking a walk, we reconnect with something larger than ourselves. We begin to see the beauty in simplicity, the richness in the ordinary. Both Steve Jobs and the retired gardeners demonstrate that transformation doesn't require monumental changes. Sometimes, it's about shifting our perspective, letting go of what no longer serves us, and embracing the simplicity of being. Jobs taught me that clarity and focus come from stripping away the unnecessary, while the gardeners reminded me that joy is often found in the quiet, unassuming moments of daily life. As I reflect on these stories, I'm reminded that transformation isn't about becoming someone entirely different. It's about uncovering who we truly are. It's about making choices that align with our values, finding meaning in the everyday, and allowing ourselves to slow down enough to truly live. Whether it's through the deliberate simplicity of a wardrobe or the mindful act of planting seeds, these small shifts have the power to create a life that feels more authentic, more peaceful, and more fulfilling. So, I invite you to consider, what small change could you make today to bring more simplicity into your life? Perhaps it's letting go of something that no longer brings you joy. Or maybe it's taking a few moments to be fully present with a loved one or a task at hand. Whatever it is, know that these choices, though simple, hold the power to transform your days and, ultimately, your life. Change often feels like stepping into the unknown, doesn't it? Especially in today's world, where speed and productivity seem to be the ultimate measures of success. We're conditioned to value the quick fix, the instant result, and the endless stream of progress. But beneath the surface of this relentless pace lies a quiet longing, a yearning for something deeper, more meaningful, and less chaotic. I remember the first time I truly confronted this tension in my own life. It was a Monday morning, and I was sitting at my desk, scrolling through emails, notifications buzzing on my phone, and a growing to-do list staring back at me. Each ding and ping felt like a demand, pulling me further into a cycle I hadn't chosen but somehow found myself trapped in. In that moment, I realized I wasn't just busy. I was consumed. My time, my energy, and even my peace of mind had become commodities, traded away for things that felt urgent but not important. That moment sparked a question. What if I slowed down? The idea felt radical, almost countercultural, in a world that thrives on speed. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that slowing down wasn't about doing less. It was about living more intentionally. Making this shift wasn't easy. First, I struggled with the discomfort of stepping back from the constant motion. Felt like I was swimming against the current, watching others race ahead while I stood still. But slowly, I began to notice the rewards. Without the constant noise, I could finally hear my own thoughts. Without the endless tasks, I found space to breathe, reflect, and reconnect with what mattered most. This shift reminded me of a teaching from the Buddha. The middle way is a principle of balance, path between extremes. In the context of modern life, it's not about rejecting all possessions or abandoning ambition. It's about ensuring that the things we own and the goals we pursue serve us, rather than dominate us. The middle way teaches us to find harmony between living with intention and embracing the world as it is. One of the most transformative changes I made was introducing a digital detox into my routine. Like many, I had fallen into the habit of mindlessly scrolling through social media, checking emails at all hours, and constantly feeling tethered to my devices. It wasn't until I set boundaries, turning off notifications, designating screen-free times, and even spending entire weekends offline, that I realized how much my digital habits were affecting me. Without the constant pull of my phone, I found myself more present with loved ones, more focused on my work, and more attuned to the world around me. Another change was simplifying my living space. Inspired by the tiny home movement, I didn't move into a miniature house, but I did adopt its ethos, living with only what I truly needed. This meant letting go of items that no longer served a purpose, paring down my possessions, and creating a home that felt calm and uncluttered. Each item I kept was intentional, chosen for its function or meaning. The result was a space that didn't just look peaceful, it felt peaceful. As I navigated these changes, I began to notice a broader cultural shift happening around me. More and more people were stepping away from the chaos, choosing slower, simpler lives, whether it was the rise of mindfulness practices, the popularity of minimalism, or the increasing awareness of mental health. It seemed like a collective awakening was taking place. People were recognizing that the constant chase for more wasn't sustainable, and that slowing down could lead to a richer, more fulfilling life. But even amidst these positive changes, challenges remained. Slowing down in a fast-paced world often feels like swimming upstream. There were moments when I doubted my choices, when I wondered if I was falling behind or missing out. But each time I returned to my practices, mindfulness, simplicity, and intentional living, I found reassurance. The peace and clarity I gained far outweighed the pressures to conform. One of the most unexpected lessons from this journey was realizing that slowing down didn't mean stepping away from modern life. It meant engaging with it more meaningfully. It wasn't about rejecting technology but using it intentionally. It wasn't about abandoning ambition but pursuing goals that aligned with my values. And it wasn't about withdrawing from the world but showing up fully, with presence and purpose. I also found comfort in nature, which became a grounding force throughout this journey. Taking regular walks, gardening, or simply sitting outside allowed me to reconnect with a rhythm far older and wiser than the pace of modern life. Nature teaches us patience, reminding us that growth takes time and that beauty often lies in the subtle, the quiet, and the unseen. These practices didn't just change my daily life, they reshaped my mindset. I began to see that living intentionally wasn't a destination but a continuous journey. It required daily choices, moments of reflection, and the courage to prioritize what truly mattered, even when it went against the grain of societal expectations. Looking back, I realized that embracing a slower life wasn't about changing everything overnight. It was about taking small, deliberate steps toward a more mindful and meaningful existence. It started with a single decision to pause, to reflect, and to choose a different path. And each step since then has been a testament to the power of slowing down. So, I invite you to consider, what could slowing down look like in your life? Maybe it's a quiet morning with no agenda, a walk in the park without your phone, or a simple meal shared with loved ones. Whatever it is, know that the rewards are waiting, not in some distant future, but here, in the present moment. All it takes is the courage to begin. As we reach the end of this journey, I'd like to leave you with a question. What truly matters to you? When all the noise fades and the world grows quiet, what do you carry in your heart? For me, it's not the things I've owned or the fleeting thrills of achievement, but the warmth of a shared smile, the serenity of watching the sunrise, and the joy of being fully present for those I love. These are the treasures that have enriched my life, treasures no amount of wealth could ever buy. Living simply, mindfully, and with intention isn't about renouncing the world or turning away from its beauty. Instead, it's about rediscovering that beauty in the ordinary, the overlooked, and the moments we often rush past. It's about choosing depth over breadth, contentment over comparison, and clarity over chaos. I understand that change isn't easy. The pull of consumerism, the pace of modern life, and the expectations of others can make it feel daunting to step off the treadmill. But know this, every small step you take toward simplicity is a step toward greater freedom. Whether it's decluttering a single drawer, taking 5 minutes to breathe deeply, or saying no to one more obligation, each act is a seed planted for a more peaceful, fulfilling future. So, as you close this chapter and return to your day, I encourage you to reflect. What is one thing you could let go of today to create space for what truly matters? Perhaps it's an item, a habit, or even a thought that no longer serves you. Whatever it is, trust that by releasing it, you're making room for something far greater, something that nurtures your soul and aligns with your deepest values. The slow life is not just a way of living, it's a path back to ourselves. And as you walk it, remember that you're not alone. We're here, walking with you, step by step, choice by choice, moment by moment. Thank you for allowing Lotus Light Teachings to be a part of your journey. May your days be filled with simplicity, gratitude, and peace. And may the question we began with continue to guide you. What are you running toward? And could the peace you seek already be here, waiting for you to slow down and notice? Let us know in the comments. What small change will you make today to embrace the richness of simplicity? Until next time, may your journey be light and your heart full.